We get started with today's webinar, local SEO webinar, mastering local search engine optimization. We're going to talk about strategies and tools to dominate your market in 26. We're not only going to talk about SEO, we're also going to talk about other growth marketing strategies, but primarily we're going to talk about search engine optimization. All right, just real quick. My name is Chris Raulf. I'm the founder and chief visionary officer at Boulder SEO Marketing, originally from Switzerland, moved to Boulder, I guess about 30 years ago. I've been in digital marketing for, I guess, nearly about 25, 30 years. I speak globally now. As you will see during this presentation, we're going to talk about AI SEO because that's a big deal now. You also have to show up in large language models such as ChatGPT. So I'm a bit of an AI SEO nerd. I talk about this stuff all over the world. And then I'm also a brand ambassador for a very cool SEO tool called SE Ranking, which we're going to showcase in this webinar. And then with me today, I have Daniel Burns. Daniel, why don't you briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah, for sure. My name is Daniel Burns, and here at Boulder SEO Marketing, we follow EOS. So Chris is the visionary. My job is the integrator. So essentially, I am getting Chris's ideas and visions and turning them into processes that our team can effectively use to deliver what we do. I'm originally from Brazil. Before joining forces with Chris, I used to own and run a digital agency, a website design agency in California for about 25 years or so. So a lot of what I bring to the table, other than the operations and process side of things, is a lot of the website side of things. How does the website play an influence into SEO, conversions, everything that we do? So looking forward to this presentation. We have some really, really good stuff to present today.
Awesome. Cool. And then for full disclosure, right, we're doing these webinars to educate people out there. I think both Daniel and I are primarily educators, but obviously we do run a for-profit agency. So if you don't want to do this stuff yourself, you're certainly welcome to reach out and talk to us about the things that we're going to talk about here in this webinar. So that being said, that was my sales pitch, by the way. So we specialize in innovative, human-driven, AI-assisted SEO content marketing and growth marketing strategies. That's what it takes if you're the owner of a local service business. That's what it takes to get leads and sales if you want to show up at the top in Google and other AI search engines such as ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, etc. We have developed a proprietary methodology called micro SEO strategies. I'm going to show you one example and how we built this piece. In fact, if you do a search for the search term SEO price guide, that's the example that I'm going to show you, where we basically use the micro SEO strategies methodology, which is part of BSM Copilot, which is a AI SEO methodology that we created that Daniel will show during this webinar. So we're combining cutting edge technologies with just SEO and AI optimization best practices. So again, if you do a search for SEO price guide, I think globally you should see something like this, right? So we know for a fact a lot of people are searching for exactly this search terms. There's no guessing how many people search for this search term. We have tools where we can figure out, okay, X amount of people are searching for this keyword. Thus, we want to develop content that has a chance to rank not only in the top in Google, but also get into these AI overviews and get listed as a trusted source. And by the way, this piece of content, 100% generated by AI using Virtual Chris. I'm going to show you Virtual Chris here in a second. So it's done using AI the right way, and you'll understand once I show you Virtual Chris and once you see the walkthrough of our AI SEO methodology. But this is now possible with the technology available to us. So we'll show you a little bit more information here in a second. We got a lot of information that we would like to cover in a relatively short amount of time. So this will be, buckle up, this will be a very fast-paced webinar. And I think, Daniel, why don't we turn off, let me see, turn off our cameras at this point. I think it takes up a little bit of space and then we'll turn, actually, yeah, I'm going to turn mine off as well. All right, so this will be a very fast-paced webinar. If you are the owner of a local service business, you're like this person there, right? It's an AI generated image. You are wearing a lot of hats. We are the owners of a local service business. So we feel your pain. Daniel and I, we spoke last night and it was like 5 p.m. We were on calls all day long and we barely got anything done. This is the reality that we are facing as local service business owners, right? So there's a lot going on. Um, One critical thing is generating leads in sales because that's the lifeline, lifeblood of any business, right? And oftentimes, even us, like it's like at the very end of the day. So if you're not able to generate leads or sales, you will go out of business. So this is what this webinar is all about. When I attend webinars like this one, or if I go to a conference, I want to walk away with two, three, maybe four things that I can actually implement immediately. So I woke up during the middle of the night last night and I had a wake up call. I think we had way too many theoretical slides in this webinar. So I got up at 6 a.m. and I completely redid these slides, this presentation. So I wanted to really share cool things that you can implement immediately right after this webinar. All right. So let's take a quick look at the traditional search engine results page of Google, right? If you're a local business like us, let's say one of your target SEO keywords is Denver SEO. At the very top there, Google will slap their pay-per-click ads at the very top. So it's pay to play, right? About 20% of all people will click on one of those paid ads that are usually, you can identify that it's a paid ad. And then it's pretty expensive to get people to your website. In this case, it costs about 17 bucks through a pay-per-click ad to get people to your website. All right. About 45% of all people will click on one of the local map pack listings there. As you can see there, we're listed in the local map pack for the keyword Denver SEO. And then about 35% of people will actually click on one of the traditional search engine results listing. In this case, we were at the top in Google as well. So that's the makeup of a typical search engine results page in Google. All right. Just here a few fun facts. Average cost per lead for local service businesses. It's pretty expensive to get leads. In my opinion, the most effective lead and the least expensive lead is through organic local SEO. According to the research that I did, about 31 bucks. Social media apparently is a little bit less. However, the quality of those leads generated through these other ways, it's usually lower. So as you can see here, close rates by channel, organic SEO, way higher. If somebody finds you through organic search, you're immediately on the same level. You have a way bigger chance of closing that lead. So when somebody searches for a keyword such as plumber near me, they're ready to buy. If they find you through the local map pack, there's a really good chance that you will get that sale. All right, let's quickly talk about growth marketing for local service businesses. What is it? It's a data-driven full funnel strategy, and Daniel will show what our full funnel strategy looks like. It's basically growth marketing optimized the entire journey from, first click to repeat business to referrals, etc., etc. The smart approach, if you're not able to deploy a full funnel growth marketing strategy, my recommendation, start with organic SEO, which is what we primarily talk about in this webinar, and social, and then add on. How much should you budget for a growth marketing strategy for your business? Right there, but 5 to 70% of your revenue. Growth mode, obviously more. The more you can invest, the better. Our customers, they typically spend between $1,500 and $5,000. That's what you need to expect if you want to work with a reputable agency, just such as ours. All right, Daniel, over to you. Enlighten us. What does a full funnel strategy look like?
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of what we did before was mostly just that yellow box on the top, which was the organic traffic for a long time. We focused a lot on generating organic traffic, which, as Chris pointed out, is the best kind of traffic with the highest conversion rate possible. But what really, really businesses need, and this is something that we've actually come to the conclusion based on a lot of different things, but based on what we do for ourselves, right? And this formula that we're actually rolling out for all of our clients now is something that we're now doing internally. And it brings together not just this, the super important organic traffic into the mix, but it brings in the other elements that make all of the efforts that you put into, growing your organic traffic a lot more powerful. So this is essentially a snapshot of what we're doing for ourselves. And with any other product and with any other process, the way that we do things here is we always do it for ourselves. Any new platform that we're going to try, any new process, any new service, we always do it for ourselves as a BSM service to, produce, to promote ourselves. And once we feel that it works really well and we like the way it works and we like the results, then we start rolling out for our clients. And this is essentially something that we're rolling out for our clients. So quickly, I'm just going to walk through essentially the main parts of what's really been working and what are the elements of this. So on the top, you're looking at the traffic generation elements of this equation, right? How do we get more and more people to come to your website? The big two yellow boxes are essentially the core of what we focus on here, which is generating more organic traffic and generating more AI traffic now, more important than ever, right? When people are asking GPT or Claude for, something that your business does, we want them to find your business and go to your website because of that. But then for some other businesses, or depending on who you are, what you do, there are other things that we also recommend that might work tremendously well. For example, if you're a local business, sometimes spending a little bit of money on local service ads brings in some good, leads to the website. Webinars is something that we talk to all of our clients. If you're able to do webinars, very similar to what we're doing here today, you're teaching, you're putting out there your expertise, but at the same time, you're able to generate leads, that are going to know who you are, know what you do. And if in the future they need help with what you do, you're going to be one of the go-to people that they're going to go for. Again, social ads, social posts. One of the ways that we use social ads, which is very different than the traditional way that people use social ads, is that, for example, let's say that we have a really good case study for a plumber that we've worked with here locally, and he's had amazing results. So what we do is we say, hey, this is a great case study that I think other plumbers, across the country for that matter, would be interested in seeing, because if they're in the same position, this is something that we can help. So the social ads that we do is we get that specific case study and we promote it to other owners of plumbing agencies. And this is a lot more efficient than, doing hard sells of advertising yourself as a plumber itself, right? It's sharing that information. Now, How does all of this work? Well, all of this works when these different leads come into the website and then they go into a specific, CRM, and then you nurture each one differently, right? Someone that came in because of a social ad needs to have a different type of communication than somebody that came in through a webinar or through a local service. But the first step, now we have all of that traffic, we want to make sure that we're working on the conversion rate optimization, right? If you have a conversion rate, let's say of 1%, but you're bringing in 1,000 people every month, you're only going to be converting 10 people, right? That 1%. But if we're able to really tweak the messaging, the UI, the UX to increase that conversion rate simply from 1% to 2%, all of a sudden you're converting twice the amount of people from the same traffic, right? So conversion rate optimization, the first big thing is like, how wide can we make that hole so traffic comes into and becomes these leads? Now, one of the services that we found that's really, really interesting, and this is something for all small businesses to think about, as we worked with calls and tracking forms, we've come to the conclusion that a lot of small businesses actually lose a lot of leads because when people call, nobody answers, right? There's a lot of missed calls. And that is something bad because then they're going to go to the next one and they're going to, call the next company and then they're going to talk to them and boom, you're out of the equation. So we have this really nifty feature that if your business gets a phone call but nobody answers, immediately our system triggers a text to that person's phone number that says, "Hey, sorry, we couldn't come to the phone. How can we help you?" And immediately you're engaging that person into a text communication. That makes it so all of these calls that might have gone unanswered now become a true lead. And it's really crazy because, 9 out of 10 small businesses that I talk to, they say, no, 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 we don't lose any calls. We answer every call. But when we start tracking it, the reality is there's a lot of calls that they didn't realize that they weren't answering. So this is a big thing, right? Then the next phase is now we're getting all of these leads. How do we nurture these leads, right? If you came in as a social ad, if you saw a specific case study, right? How do we send out messages and communication and send you other pieces of information that are going to continue that kind of educational path that we're on, right? This allows the system to nurture all of these leads in a way that doesn't seem pushy, doesn't seem salesy, but it continues to kind of seem educational, which it's what it is in nature, right? And then the system then does lead scoring. And what lead scoring does is it says, okay, this week out of the whatever 500 leads that you generated over the past month, these 3 or these 5 leads are really engaged with your brand because they saw your emails, they opened up all your messages, they actually visited the site 2 or 3 times. And what that allows you to do is it allows your team to have a list of really qualified leads to go out there and follow up on and say, hey, we know that, we see that you've been doing this and that. But at the bottom of the funnel, which is the reason that we create all of this, is because we want to nurture leads to essentially set an appointment or convert on a sale. So this is essentially what a full funnel performance agency is, right? It's not just focusing on generating traffic to the website, but it's making sure that we're generating traffic that is really qualified, but adding all of those steps to make sure that we're optimizing every single step of that process. Because at the end of the day, what really matters for a small business is the amount of sales and the amount of appointments they are able to book. So essentially, this is what we're really focusing on moving forward with all of our clients.
Awesome. And then I actually saw a question that's applicable to the slide on social ads. Somebody is getting more job applicants than real leads through their Facebook ads. So it's Facebook's algorithm may not differentiate well between potential clients and job seekers. So to mitigate this, refine your targeting by optimizing for specific purchasing or booking events, adding qualifying questions to lead forms, making ad copy very, very, very clear about your target audience, and explicitly exclude in market for jobs audiences. So I hope this answers your question. All right, onward. So, um, talking about ads, for some businesses or many local services businesses that we talk to, they have very little to no organic search traffic. So if you are a newer business, You just need to understand that organic search engine optimization will take time, usually, gosh, 3 to 6 months. So if you are in that position, a great option for you may be local services ads. So I just want to quickly show you what local services ads are. And then John or Harold, if you guys can please put the link into the description field of the YouTube video. So local services ads, it's extremely easy to set up. It's where you have a chance to show up in the paid ads in on the top of the Google search engine results pages. Simply click on start, then continue. Then not every business is eligible to do local service ads. We are not. So let's say, let's skip business profile. So let's say these are the job categories where you are actually eligible to run local service ads. So if you have an auto body shop, barber shop, right, all these local service businesses that are listed here are eligible to run local service ads. And then I believe you pay per lead. So this may be a great option if you're a brand new business or if you have very little to no organic search traffic. Oftentimes it's a very good complementary strategy in addition to organic search engine optimization. All right. So that's one of these golden nuggets that hopefully you'll take away from this presentation. All right, so keeping digital marketing in-house versus outsourcing, it depends. Do you need to hire somebody like us? Not necessarily. If you have the time, the resources, and the know-how, I would say give it a shot, right? It's a lot of fun. Obviously, we enjoy doing what we do. When I was working for way back in the days for companies, that was me, right? I did digital marketing in-house, and then at some point I realized, I don't have enough time, I don't have the resources, and I'm lacking the knowledge. So this is probably when you want to think about potentially outsourcing this stuff. SEO has evolved. I'm not gonna lie. When ChatGPT launched in November of 2022, everything changed, right? Back in the day, meaning 21, early 22, we only had to optimize for Google, get to page one, we're gonna get clicks, right? Nowadays, we need to do SEO and GEO, generative engine optimization. Daniel is going to explain what a proper generative engine optimization strategy looks like, right? So nowadays, people are searching not only on Google in the traditional search results and AI overviews, but also on ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, Gemini. Bing Copilot, as you can see, it's gotten way more complex. So nowadays, if you want to show up for a search term, for example, like who is the top rated SEO agency in Boulder, Colorado? Boom, right there, right? Obviously, we know how to do this, so we have a good chance of getting our company to rank at the very top. But this is the reality that many businesses are facing now. They need to do so much more to show up in the right places. So, Daniel, quickly, how did the old SEO work? And then let's show our a proper GEO, generative engine optimization methodology.
Yeah, this is essentially the way that, everybody started using GPT when it first came out, which was like, oh my God, GPT can now start creating blog posts and content for me. So what they did is they would say, hey, here, Chat GPT, please write a, blog post for me on XYZ. And, boom, it spits it out. And sometimes they do a little editing, sometimes they don't, but they just produce things, through ChatGPT. And unfortunately, there are still a lot of people, a lot of businesses that do content this way. And unfortunately, there's still a lot of agencies that do it this way. Why? Well, because it's easy, right? It's simple, easy, But the reality of it is that this process here is what Google flags as really, really low quality, junk content. So anything that you're producing this way is really, really hurting your website because these are things that Google will index as, low quality. And the more you put, the higher the percentage of your website that is low quality. So what we've done is essentially migrated this into a really, really in-depth process. And you can go to the next screen, Chris. But what we're looking at here is our GEO process, right? And I'm going to walk through this pretty quickly because there's a lot going on here. But essentially, if you look at that research and content outline, there are three different types of information that we put in there. The four on the top, the yellow ones, are essentially information about the client, right? The expert profile module and the business entity module. We need to go into as much detail about who this company is and what it does and what the expertise is and what it's been involved with. It's true with the expert module. Who wrote this article? What's the owner? What is the expertise that the owner brings to the table? Why? Well, because the piece of content that we create at the end, number one, needs to be created by a person. Number two, we don't want to write a how-to guide piece, right? We want to create a how the client guide. How do we approach this problem? How do we approach a solution to these things? And the expertise that they bring to the table is extremely important. And then the buyer personas, who are we talking to, so we can adapt to the communication style. And then the brand messaging guides. So this is really important information that needs to get fed into the system. And then on the bottom, the green ones, let's say that we're going to be doing, let's say that we're going to be selling pink ponies, right? So the first thing that we want to do is if we have an existing page on that, we want to put all of that content into our process. The SERP analysis, we're going to go through and we're going to look for pink ponies on Google and what are the 10 first websites that show up for that. We're going to get all of that information from those 10 websites. Why? Because that's who Google deems the most important websites, the most thought leadership companies and content about that specific. Really important that we base ourselves on that. And then we do same for AI overview. What is the AI overview returning? Not only in terms of information, but the websites it's quoting. Gemini results, Perplexity. All of that is who these platforms deem the experts at this moment. And then the last piece, which I'm going to go into more detail a little bit later, is the strategy document. This is where we sit down with the client and we say, okay, this new piece, what is this new piece going to be all about? What is it going to talk about? What's the problem that it's going to solve? And then we get all of this information, we put it into our Copilot. Copilot is essentially a system of prompting that we're going back and forth with AI to create essentially, a summary of all of this information. What do we bring or what the client brings to the table, creating an outline, and then creating a great piece of content that is being generated by the client. Now, when I say by the client, if you look at that little box on the bottom there, it says custom client agent. We use that instead of just a ChatGPT window. What is a custom client agent? Well, custom client agent is, I think Chris is going to show,
Yeah.
our example as well, but it's essentially we build a knowledge base about the client and the company. So we put in as many files in there. So essentially this client agent is going to respond and communicate and write as if the client was actually writing. It's a game changer. And I'll let Chris, show that. So when we get all of these documents, all of these instructions, put them through this BSM Copilot sequence of prompting and use the AI, that was specifically created for the client, we create this final piece of content at the end, which in our experience ranks extremely well, right? A lot of the examples that Chris has shown in terms of things that are working really well for our clients and ourselves follow this exact process. But now, why is this not this is just the first step, right? Creating this piece of content. Now we need to go out there and promote it. We need to get traction to it. We need to get social signals from it. So again, BSM Copilot using this custom client will create a newsletter LinkedIn, a company profile post, a personal LinkedIn post, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. These are just some examples, right? For different clients, we have different platforms that we're going and creating. Again, everything that you're seeing that's a green box is stuff that is AI generated, meaning that it's done very efficiently and with a lot of depth, right? Why this is important is because we can do more and we can do better. But you'll see that as part of this automated process, there are two people that are involved. the project manager and strategist. This is the person who's putting in all of the information, running the prompts, editing it, communicating with it to make sure that this final piece of content is really, really well written. And the same with the post launch. And everything that gets written, both the piece of content, but also all of the social media and post-launch stuff gets looked at by an editor. The editor's doing a couple of things. The editor's obviously going through, making sure everything sounds good. There's no AI, anything in there, but he's cross-referencing this with a lot of the yellow things in the beginning, right? Is this really, communicating with the buyer personas? Is this really showcasing the expert profile on the business entity? So this is a perfect example of an AI-driven, human-managed process that works tremendously well for what we do today. So if anybody has any questions on this, feel free to put them on the chat. I can answer them at the end, but I know this is a lot to process, but I just wanted to get through this quickly because I know we have a lot to unpack today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Daniel, just very briefly, let's talk about the importance of local schema markup. And then I'm going to show a workaround. This is pretty technical, but very briefly, what is it and why is it important for local businesses?
Yeah, because if you're a local business or even if you're a company that has a service page for a specific local area, what you want to do is you want to tell Google to say, hey, this service, this local business services this specific area. And what the structured data is a piece of code that you put on the back of that page that is going to communicate directly with Google to educate Google to say, hey, we are a local business. This is the geographical area that we really do business in. And once Google understands that and processes that, your local page or your local business is going to show up more specifically on that geographical area and not outside of that area. So this is a way for you to communicate to Google what are the geographical areas that you are specifically working on.
Awesome. And Harold and John, if you haven't already, please put that link in the chat so that people can read about the information there. All right, so let's talk about Virtual Chris, what Daniel basically already mentioned as part of the walkthrough. So I'm gonna show you my Virtual Chris. I'm gonna close a few tabs here. So my Virtual Chris, I test everything that we deploy then and productize. So you're looking now at Claude, and it's very easy to set up a virtual copy of you. Simply head over to projects, click on new project. This is also similar to a Gemini Gem or a ChatGPT. Is it called project, Daniel, in ChatGPT, or what's the proper term?
Yeah, yeah. So it's projects.
Okay, cool. And then basically what I've done, I've added information to Virtual Chris's knowledge base. So I do a lot of speaking. I record YouTube videos. I do podcasting. I do a ton of stuff, right? So I'm creating net new content on a regular basis. So Virtual Chris not only has access to the internet, as ChatGPT does, but it also has access to all of this information here that is incredibly valuable. Then in Claude, which I gotta say, it's one of my favorite large language models. The more you interact with, a virtual you, the more it builds a memory, right? So it knows what you do, it knows who you are, etc., etc. And then critically important is to add good instructions. Let me show you. So basically, you're telling this thing, hey, it's like, hey, you're a virtual Chris, a micro language model trained specifically on Chris Raulf's expertise. So I give it very, very specific instructions on what I want it to do and what I don't want it to do, right? So you got to make sure it knows how to behave, but this is something that anybody can set up. And I'm going to show you now how I used Virtual Chris to actually create that SEO price guide. Let me show you. This is the end result, SEO price guide. Ta-da, right? We're at very top in Google. So this piece of content was created by Virtual Chris, 100% AI generated content. Obviously, we went in and created custom images. We cleaned it up, created tables. We actually also used AI to generate these infographics, etc., etc. So let me quickly, very briefly walk you through. So at the heart of it lies really good prompting, where I created this prompting sequence to update existing content on our website. So this guide already existed. It was written 2 years ago. So I created a prompting sequence that will allow me to update existing content with the help of Virtual Chris. So basically, I'm going to copy this and I pasted it into Virtual Chris. Oh boy, that's the entire sequence. Let me see if I can move that up. All right, as you can see here, I basically put in the prompting sequence and then I interacted with Virtual Chris. So it's a back and forth. It does a lot of research, as Daniel just explained. And then eventually the outcome was this, right? This kind of content was written by Virtual Chris and it has access to basically a lot of my knowledge. So this is how you can use AI to properly create content for your website. All right. That was a very, very, very quick explanation, but I hope that's one of these golden nuggets that you can take away. Create a virtual you that will help you create content. Then, as I mentioned before, if you're not very technical, if you don't want to deal with implementing schema, there's a really cool tool called Google Data Highlighter. It's still up and running. It's one of these old legacy tools. Simply sign up for it. Then what you want to do, create a piece of content, click on Start Highlighting, put in the link of your content. This is an article, tag just this page, and then what this tool allows you to do is basically just highlight information. All right, this is the title, right? You get the point. So you go through this tool and then ultimately click publish. You're going to send information directly to Google about a piece of content. Thus, it has a better chance to rank at the top in its search engine. All right, onward. Here we go. All right. So that's Virtual Chris, then Data Highlighter. Again, Harold, John, if you can put the link to the Data Highlighter into the chat there. So yeah, as you can see, SEO has evolved. It no longer is just SEO. It truly is AI, SEO, and generative engine optimization. If you want to learn more about AI and SEO, just do a search for AI SEO webinar and you'll find our webinar that we're going to host on March 25 at the very top in Google, or simply click on that or go to that link below on the slide. Again, team, please put that into the chat. All right. Onward with local SEO. Local SEO, way, 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 way easier than optimizing an e-commerce website or a large national or international website, right? It's not rocket science. If you do a good job, you can actually dominate page one or the top results in Google, as you can see there. Obviously, we are an agency, so we're pretty good at this. So we got the first few results in the map pack, then our website is shown, and then even our LinkedIn company page shows up, right? So let's take a look at a case study. And we want to walk you through the exact steps that we did to get this client, Maurer Painting, not only to show up in the Google Map Pack, but also get their homepage to show up at the very top in Google for search terms such as the ones that you are seeing here. When we started to work with Mauer Painting, they were nowhere. Daniel, I think it was about 2 years ago. They were on page two, three, four for these search terms, right? And now they're dominating their market. I think they're booked out usually for like 2, 3 months in advance. So, before we show the exact steps that we took to make these results happen, let's briefly talk about keyword research. This is where it all starts, right? If you don't understand how people are searching for you, you're just shooting from the hip. Harold, John, if you guys can please put the link there at the bottom into the chat. What you're seeing here is a tool called SE Ranking. They give our audience complimentary access to the tool for a month, no credit card required. Oh, it's actually, that's a template that I created. We're going to share the link to the SE Ranking trial in a second. Here is the link to the complimentary SE trial. You can also just scan this QR code there. But let me quickly show you how to perform keyword research very briefly with this tool. I'm not even going to show keyword planner. So you would have sign up for the tool, head over to the keyword research section. Then simply type in a keyword, for example, Boulder exterior painting. This tool will give you really cool information, such as, how hard is it to, optimize for this keyword, the monthly search volume, the seasonality, how much does it cost to advertise on Google, similar keywords, right? Related keywords. Look at that Longmont house painting. That's a city just north of Boulder. So this tool will actually give you really good information to make informed decisions. What I recommend is use a template such as this, where you write down the keyword, the average monthly search volume. It just helps you stay organized. As you can imagine, here at Boulder SEO Marketing, when we work with our clients, we got to be very, very, very organized when we do this AI SEO stuff. All right, so that being said, Daniel, I'm gonna hand it over to you in a second. So when you do a search for exterior paint to Boulder, right, they show up in the map pack, but their homepage now shows up for all of these search terms. When we took them on as a customer, that was the ultimate low-hanging fruit opportunity, where we're going to walk you through the strategy summary document that we created for this project on how to optimize the homepage. Daniel, over to you real quick.
Yeah, sure. So you can hit next, Chris, and I'm not going to go through this again, but remember there's the green and the red files. The white one is where we spend the majority of our human time strategizing with the client, right? This is what I'm going to show you next, and this is the key to making this work. So if you hit next now, Chris, this is what that template looks like, right? And we're just going to open it up and kind of walk you through it, but you'll see there's a space here, and I'm going to walk through essentially, row two. What is this project about? We're educating the AI. Why are we creating this piece of content? Why is it going to be different? Where does this page reside on the website? That's extremely important, because based on that, we can create linking and other, internal linking, and it'll relate well to other pages on the website. The target page, for example. So here, primary keywords, right? We have usually some 4 or 5 keywords that we really like to focus on. And then there are keyword variations on the bottom of those. These, again, are keywords that we have gone through and worked manually with the client to decide what are the best keywords that we're going to be focusing on. not to get into too much detail, but it's going to be a combination of low-hanging fruit keywords and then great opportunity keywords. And this is a really, really important part of the process, right? Again, target audiences, right? There's a specific target audience persona document that's also fed, but here's where we can get a little bit more specific. Now, for this page, what are the key messaging points? What do we really want to talk about and leverage, right? This is where we can again have an interview with a client to talk about what are the things that really need to be in here that are going to make this piece unique. Goals and conversions, right? How do we want to modify the branding guide and tone? Again, the AI overview analysis, SERP analysis, these are things that get automated and put in here. That's essentially an older version of it. But now it's all done automatically and fed into the system. But again, now you're going to look at this one, row 28, and scroll down so I can see the title of it. And it's essentially, keep going, keep going, keep going. It's the MCI content, right? So this is essentially content that we want to make sure that we want to outline and we want to include as part of the process. Continuing to go down, you'll see that again, there's a lot of content in this document. So keep going down so we can see what the title of that is. And again, what are the elements that are extremely important that are continuing to be part of this, right? That might be parts that are essentially currently live on the website today that need to be there on the new page, but these are things that we want to include in there. Again, continue scrolling down. What are elements that we might to include in the future? How big do we want this content to be? Here are some recommended pages that we want to create internal links to and from. What the system's going to do is look at these other pages and understand how do we how do we create content on this new page that's going to naturally link back and forth, right? Again, what are recommended external links, if any? By the way, these internal links and external links is a field where we can put in recommendations, but as part of the process, it's also going to do its own research and recommend internal and external links, right? And that's it. So this is every piece of content that we create in comparison to just saying, hey, go out there and create a great piece of content that's better than anything else. This is all the set of instructions that we're putting in there, which is that white, document in the process. And along with this set of instructions, we have all of the research, which is the green ones, and all of the foundational, about the client yellow ones. That's really the bulk of the information that gets processed, which is what makes this, process truly unique from anything else out there.
Yeah, and what you looked at was like basically an old version. Now we just launched BSM Copilot 2.0. So everything resides now in AI and everything is way, 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 way more efficient, which is very exciting for us and our clients, of course. All right. So we're already running late here. Let's talk about Google Business Profile optimization, creation, and optimization. This is an absolute must, right? Even if you don't want to deal with optimizing your website, this is something that you can do. It's, in my opinion, very, very straightforward. And as a local service business, you absolutely need to have a Google Business Profile. Again, if you do a search for, SEO agency Boulder, we're at the very top. We get a lot of leads through Google Business Profile. Let's quickly run through. Let me show you our dashboard, just show you a few of the highlights that I believe you need to optimize. Team, again, if you can put in the link on how people can claim their Google Business Profile. So here we go, Google Business Profile. Simply click on Start, right? And then this is how you would search for your business. Oftentimes, Google has already found information about your business, so you may not even have to start from scratch. And then let me quickly show you, I'm gonna show you my personal, actually, let's do the Boulder location. So once you have set up your Google Business Profile, this is what the dashboard looks like. Obviously, you want to make sure that everything looks good. They will tell you, hey, you got to do a little bit more work here. These three little dots there, this is where the settings are in where you have sort of like admin features. So I would say set up your Google Business Profile, click on everything where you can click on. Then, very important, your profile, right? Complete everything that you can. If you click on edit, this will actually now give you the option to use AI to create a optimized description of your business. Make sure to include keywords that you want to be found for. Then the link to your website. This is a very important link as it counts as an active backlink directly from Google. Social media profiles, right? Set your service area. Then, very important, your hours. This actually impacts how your profile shows up. So I'm available, like I get all the calls, right? So I'm available all the time usually. So these hours work for us, then special hours. Just go through the information here and fill out everything to the your best ability, right? Then reviews, make sure you respond to every review right away. It's a very important ranking signal in Google profile ranking signals. Make sure you add pictures, right, of yourself. This is us at the office in Boulder. It matters. Everything matters. The more complete your profile, the better. Then we do a lot of posting, right? We create content using our BSM Copilot methodology. So put that stuff up on Google Business Profile. It matters. Believe me, the more active you are with your Google Business Profile, the better it will rank. Let me quickly products. You can add products, services, booking links, right? Q&A. Make sure you have a Q&A section. You add content that's relevant to your customers. And then, why not? If you run a business, ask for reviews. They even give you a QR code that you can send out. Click on this link, send it out to your clients. Reviews really, really, really matter. So, I think we're already running late here, but this is basically a quick introduction to Google Business Profile. You will get the link to the slides here, so I'm not going to go over this information, but that's basically a quick checklist on what you should pay attention to when it comes to your Google Business Profile. All right, Daniel, 3 minutes or less. Let's quickly talk about how do we measure and track the success of what we're doing here and what tools are we using?
For sure. So we love SEO ranking, and there's a lot of tools out there that do different things, and some do something like this as well. But the reason we love SEO ranking so much is because it's a really good bang for the buck, right? I'll show you some examples, and to move quickly, right? You can go to the next screen. One of the things that I love, if you have a location, right, a Google Business location, or if you have multiple Google Business locations, you have the centralized dashboard. You'll see on the left, all of the different things that you can do. But this is a snapshot that's updated daily, that's going to give you real data on how well it's performing. On the next screen, if you one of the tools that I really, really love, and this is the best way to get transparency on how well you are ranking. Like this is, you can set up specific keywords that are important for you. So you'll see there for us, we set up Denver SEO, Denver SEO agency, SEO agency, AI SEO agency. And for each one of those keywords, you can set a specific parameter around your location and see how well you are ranking. So that number one means that on that location for that keyword, we're position 1, 2, 3, right? That's how you can track how you are improving in terms of positioning in different areas. And if you want to see how well you're performing 5 miles, 10 miles, you can always expand this. But this is a huge, awesome automated tool that you can set up, and then you get these automatic email reports letting you know what's gone up, what's gone down, right? On the next screen, one of the things that really, really helps, again, with the Google Business Optimization, in addition to everything that we talked about, and I'll talk about a little bit more here, but is citations, right? It's how many business listings have a NAP that's consistent, which is a name, address, and phone number, and also the URL, right? Because the consistency of that information, a lot of around different directories, tells Google that yes, that information is correct, right? If you have different names or different versions of the name or different addresses in different places, Google doesn't really know, which one is correct, and that hurts the score of the of the ranking. So this tells you how many are accurate, how many need help. So on the next screen, you'll see that SE ranking has a really good feature where you could automatically sync it. So you'll see the sync status. It'll say, hey, all right, this is the correct information. Go to Google, go to Facebook, go to all of these different listings and make sure it gets updated as automatically as possible. But what I really love about SE ranking is that on the next screen, you'll see that all of the things that are able to automatically sync, it will. Then it'll tell you the ones that it can't sync because you're not listed there. In this example, TripAdvisors, Uber Eats just landed. These are opportunities for you to go in there and create profiles for your business in there. And then the example of Judy's book, for example, it means, yes, there's a listing there, but we can't automatically sync it. You can claim that listing and then manually do it. So it gives you a whole list of things that it does automatically and the things that you need to manually do it, right? Again, this is all of the stuff that I just went over a second ago, but at the bottom, I think there's a link there, that you could try SE ranking. I don't know if this is the correct link or not, Chris, if
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
it. Yeah, perfect. So that's where you can essentially go to, get a trial version of this and take it for a test run. I think you guys are really going to like it. Next screen. And I know, okay, this is you, Chris.
All right, perfect. So just a couple more slides here, and then if you guys have time for Q&A, we may run a few minutes over the time here. But getting into the right directories that Daniel just mentioned, critically important. An easy way to find the right directories is just do a search for the keywords that you want to be found for. Oftentimes, you can piggyback on to other pages on the website that don't belong to your website. So in this case, I did a search for best SEO agency Boulder. Look at that at the very top. There's actually a directory. Best 5 Boulder SEO companies that don't suck in 25, right? We're actually listed there that I can see. So this is a great example where you can do a bit of research. And what I recommend is, again, use this template here where you list your target SEO keywords and then simply do a search and write down the directory that you find and come up with a good strategy that will allow you to potentially reach out to these websites. Maybe you can list yourself. Then I also wanted to share with you, this is another one of these golden nuggets of this webinar. These are actually platforms where you can add your website. You don't have to ask anybody. You can simply create an entry on that website, link tree, etc. And these are the domain authorities of these websites. So it's basically a free backlink. Here are some examples. If you go to the backlinks example, tab down there. So we set this up quite some time ago. But here we go. Visit my website, right? This is something that we created and it's an active backlink that links back to our website. And then I think last thing that I wanted to show here about .me and LinkedIn, to super powerful platforms that you can easily set up, right? If you do a search for SEO agency Boulder, look at that. The second normal, in quotes, search result is the link to our LinkedIn company page. All right. So we're actually pushing our competition down. So absolutely a no-brainer, right, to claim and set up your LinkedIn company page. It's very easy to set up. Our team did a great job, right? Putting a slider banner up here. Then you can publish content, posts, etc., etc. Look at that. It's me speaking at a conference. Treat this like a standalone website similar to your Google business profile. The last thing, golden nuggets that I want to share is about.me. It's actually a company that Google invested in. It's very similar to a Google Business Profile. So we do announce our webinars. In this case, this is about our upcoming AI SEO webinar. Look at that. Attend my event. This takes you to the landing page on our website. Guess what? This is also an active backlink from a very high domain authority website. All right. Whew, 1 minute over. That being said, thank you very much for your interest in this webinar. Daniel, let's turn on our camera so that if we still have some people here who want to ask us questions, we're available to do that and we can even be seen. Let me see if yeah, we still have people. Perfect. All right, question. Is the purpose of using AI generate content for your website to improve GEO? Daniel, do you want to why do we do AI generated content? Just like quick recap of what you presented.
Yeah. I mean, the reason we use AI is mostly for two main reasons. Number one, because, when we use AI, we're able to do a lot better work and more in-depth work than we were able to do with just human writers. And what I mean by that is the amount of research that we can do, the amount of data gathering that we can do, the amount of like insights that we can get, the amount of everything that goes into understanding what needs to be talked about and what needs to be included in there is just tremendously well done by AI. That's the first piece. And then the second piece is when we create this virtual client, right? We're essentially writing this piece of content as our client would write this piece of content. So again, what we're doing is we're really kind of optimizing our process to make sure that we're making the best usage of everyone's time, right? So now we're able to get a piece of content that is much more thought about and researched, and we're able to create that piece of content in a much faster format. So we're able to do essentially more content, which is much better content in a much shorter period of time. And we're able to create all of these follow-up assets in a much shorter period of time. So in full transparency, the process that we follow today used to be a process that we followed several months ago, but it was all manual, right? So to create one piece of content that follow this process, which would rank really well, used to take us 2, 3 months, right? Now we're able to go through this process and create these amazing pieces of content in less than a week and usually in a couple of days, right? That's the beauty of being able to leverage AI.
Perfect. Let me turn on my light here. Next question. How important is semantic SEO and HTML or coding stuff? So semantic SEO, these platforms, Google, ChatGPT, Claude, etc., they're getting way better at understanding context. So in my opinion, you don't have to freak out about, content stuffing anymore. Just create content for people, but obviously you still want to do keyword research and use keywords in your content that make sense for the reader, but also are, swim between the lane, right? Don't write about 20 different topics on a piece of content. Make it super hyper focused, such as the SEO price guide. That's what it is, right? So we picked keywords that are very closely related to that main keyword. So that's my advice there. Daniel, you're the HTML coding guy. How important is a clean website in terms of code?
It's important. I mean, I think, the technicality of the website is not as important as the actual quality of the content and the expertise that the people involved with that content bring to the table. With that being said, you want to make sure that your website runs fast, passes core web vitals, is clean, right? One of the things that we do when we bring in new clients is we'll do a tech audit. And really, we will fix the things that are really important and the handful of things that are, hurting your website. Most of these website audit tools will give you a list of 50 different things that need to be updated. In our experience, you can spend a lot of hours fixing all of those little things, but they don't make a huge difference. I think the important thing is to understand if the site loads fast, it's clean of errors and issues. So that is important, right? But making sure that it's 100% passing every audit out there, that's not as important as it used to be, maybe a couple of years ago.
Awesome. Let me see. We're already 5 minutes over time. Let me see. How to set up Claude. It's another question. It's like, hey, how do I set up Claude, like that project? You know what? Just go to Claude and ask, how do I create a project in Claude? Or you can also set up a Google Gemini Gem, very similar, or a project in Chat GPT. But to me, this is one of these golden nuggets of this webinar. If you do sales calls, if you talk to other people for your business, start to transcribe those conversations and add those to the knowledge base of your virtual you. I personally, I couldn't live without my virtual me anymore. My team uses it all the time. There's only so much time in a day. I'm not always available, so we do a ton with AI and virtual me's and customers. Very easy to set up. Daniel, thank you very much. That was, as always, fun. If anybody has questions, shoot us an email, get in touch with us. Obviously, we do all of this stuff, so feel free to reach out to us. We're going to stay online for a couple more minutes, but definitely join us again for our upcoming AI SEO webinar. Smash that subscribe button. We publish a lot of educational content on our YouTube channel. As always, stay safe and healthy. Until next time, thank you so much for your interest. Chris Raulf here, founder of BSM, Daniel Burns, our COO.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.